In breaking news, the first of what will be several lawsuits have been filed against Donald Trump's anti-weaponization slush fund, filled with $1.8 billion of taxpayer dollars in a fraudulent settlement of a bad faith lawsuit in which Trump directed everybody he controls, the Department of Justice, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Treasury Department, to bend the knee and give himself money by way of a tax waiver and to fund Jan 6th insurrectionists. And who better to file the first suit, to come to the rescue, to hold the line, than Harry Dunn and Daniel Hodges, former Capitol and Metro Police, who have been staunch advocates to make sure that history doesn't forget what happens on Jan 6th. They filed their first lawsuit. It embeds new information that we have about the bad faith, illegitimate nature of the lawsuit, and it makes a very interesting point that could only be made through their vantage point. That this, allowing Jan 6 insurrectionists to get their hands on hundreds of millions of dollars of money, is funding violent insurrectionists, making not only Harry Dunn and Daniel Hodges insecure, but allowing for the refunding of groups like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and those that attacked the Capitol, and giving them capital to continue their terrorist campaigns is also illegal. That's a very good vantage point, a very good observation that can only be made by people like Harry Dunn and Daniel Hodges. You're on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popak. Let's get to the brand new filing. I've been predicting that this would happen, a lawsuit filed this week sometime before Memorial Day, and it's happened. Here's what, and we're going to post this on Legal AF Substack. Here's what the complaint says. This is first page, paragraph 1. In the most brazen act of presidential corruption this century. And that's saying a lot for this president. President Donald J. Trump has created a $1.776 billion taxpayer-funded slush fund to finance the insurrectionists and paramilitary groups that commit violence in his name. Think of that. Isn't that just perfectly put of what he's trying to do? He says, especially on paragraph 3, it is the settlement, or paragraph 2, the settlement was a corrupt sham, premised on a corrupt sham of a fraudulent lawsuit, that the fund encourages, paragraph 3, those who enacted violence in the president's name to continue to do so, and rewards them. Dunn and Hodges already face credible threats of death and violence on a regular basis. The fund substantially increases the danger. So second, if allowed to begin making payments, the fund will directly finance the violent operations of rioters, paramilitaries, and their supporters who threatened plaintiffs' lives that day. Who could forget the photo of Daniel Hodges being crushed in the revolving door? Let me show you a clip so you can remember of his public recitation of the facts that happened that day. Play the clip.
I was beaten, crushed, kicked, punched, surrounded. Someone reached underneath my visor, tried to gouge out my eye. And all these people were just pardoned by Donald Trump, who says that they were the real victims, that they were the patriots. I don't understand how anyone can believe that. Donald Trump, everything he is, everything he stands for is anathema to me.
They go on in paragraph 4 of the complaint. To prevent the public financing of paramilitary organizations in the U.S. and to protect plaintiffs from further violence, the fund must be dissolved. They go through all the reasons why the lawsuit in Miami that was filed by Trump against his own IRS were fraudulent, including with something we just outlined, which came out of an IRS memo that just got revealed, that this case was brought outside the statute of limitations because Alina Habba, yes, Alina Habba, sat during the sentencing or the trial of Charles Littlejohn, the Booz Allen consultant who worked at the IRS, who leaked it, and she knew on behalf of the president much earlier than that lawsuit ever should have been brought. It was time barred, much like Elon Musk just lost a case because it was filed too late against OpenAI, said a jury. It just happened in the news. And I love this paragraph 12. Kudos to the lawyers and to the plaintiffs. Paragraph 12 on page 4, Dunn and Hodges did not back down on Jan 6th and said they held the line to defend democracy and the rule of law. They bring this case to do so once again. In the frivolousness, after they go through all the ways they've been attacked, telling people telling them to commit suicide, kill themselves, put a gun in their mouth, and the rest, they talk about, starting on paragraph 13, why the lawsuit was frivolous, that there was no adversity between the sides. It was Trump v. Trump. He controlled everything. Therefore, there was no legitimate lawsuit to even settle. But on paragraph 67, they bring up something that just got reported, ripped from the headlines, as they say. It says on paragraph 67, the Trump plaintiff's claims were also time-barred. Trump's personal lawyer, that's Alina Habba, appeared at his plea hearing, Little John's plea hearing in October of 2023 on behalf of President Trump. She made an appearance and identified Trump as a victim. That's October 12th, 2023. Therefore, Trump had actual knowledge of Little John's conduct no later than that date. The Trump plaintiff's deadline to file expired 2 years after the hearing, October 2025. They missed it by 3 months. So there you have that. Now, the counts are relatively straightforward, as we predicted. Violations of the Administrative Procedures Act, a power exerted by Blanche that's ultra varies outside of his authority, and a declaratory judgment that all these things have been violated. I would have went further, although I'm not sure that's why there's going to be multiple lawsuits, because they're not the ones as plaintiffs to bring like the emoluments clause, although I think they could, to argue that the write-off of the $100 million tax liability for the Trump family, or the creation of the fund for his friends and cronies, is an emolument, a benefit, a reward, a commission, a economic value gift to which Donald Trump is not entitled and violates the domestic emoluments clause. That's going to come in other suits. I'm going to have other lawyers on to brief our audience, including Norm Eisen, Democracy Defenders, Matt Platkin, formerly the New Jersey Attorney General, to talk about the other. There's probably going to be half a dozen lawsuits about this issue that'll be separately decided. Maybe some will get consolidated, but I think they stay right where they are, all filed, this one filed in the District of Columbia. Here's what the prayer for relief, this is what they're seeking in the case. In order, holding unlawful and setting aside Blanche's actions, Todd Blanche's actions, creating the fund. Holding unlawful and setting aside the funding of the fund, and anything by Treasury Secretary Bessent to fund it. Blanche's actions, blocking Blanche's actions, authorizing the fund to assume the debts and obligations of insurrectionists on behalf of the United States. Can't do that either. In order, stopping defendants from making payments out of the fund. And in order, declaring the defendant's conduct was unlawful, in excess of statutory jurisdiction, authority, and unconstitutional. Next step on the train, who's the judge that'll be assigned? As soon as I learn that, I'll bring it to you on Substack Live for Legal AF. Come over to Legal AF YouTube channel as well. Help us. Well, this is a fast-moving story. Multiple lawsuits we'll have to keep track of. You know where you want to do that. Legal AF, Michael Popak, and the Midas Touch Network. Thanks for being here. Until my next report, this is Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.